What is up YouTube, it's Kingfisher745, and this video is ultimately going to be about whether or not the Savage Spear is worth picking up. It is supposed to be 36% off at 64 gold, and improved. But just before we get into our review, I do have a few things I wanted to say. Yesterday I was really sick, and I still am to some extent. So I apologize for not having a video, but I would have made one if I could have. The other thing is, after speaking with some of you, and seeing what you had to say about the Victor Mancha and Mayday team-up, I think I got caught up in the excitement and the hype of the snaring AISO and deadly crits. So I failed to mention that Victor Mancha actually is a special case. He has electromagnet. Because of that and the fact that you're going to magnetize the enemies with him and or Mayday, you could use the exploit webbing AISO on his level 1 instead. So yeah, that's just something that I failed to mention in all the excitement, and it definitely needed stated. Now as for the Savage Spear, first you're going to get Touch of the Savage Land. What this will do is increases your agent's hit points, defense, attack, and accuracy by 10%. It really is a nice bonus, and because of that, I know that agents used to like using it. However, I haven't seen it on defense in a very long time. I still suspect some agents may use it on attack, but I'm not one of them. That 10% though is noticeable, especially on attack, and it's visible on your HP. But in order to get a proper look at this weapon, we'll take a look at all of its functions and try it out in PvP. What I've done is already equipped it on my agent, and I've set up a team for it. So here it is, the Savage Spear. Unfortunately, the PvP bonuses are very low, but this weapon's going to have 3 functions available to it at the beginning of the fight and throughout. If you know me, you know I like having options, so that's definitely a good thing. The first multifunction is going to be the Soporific Strike, and it causes incapacitation, so chance to lose a turn, and counts as a stun. It also causes Woozy, range damage reduced by 40%, and counts as a poison for the purpose of attacks. I mean, Woozy can definitely come in handy. Counting as a poison first of all helps. And if you have an enemy like Hawkeye, you know by reducing his range damage you're going to hurt all of his attacks. Then for the second function, it's the Caustic Strike. This causes melt armor, so all attacks against this target ignore the defense stat, and enfeebled, melee damage reduced by 40%. It also counts as a poison. Once again, this strike will really hurt someone like Quicksilver, who only has melee damage. So another pretty decent damage control strike, and depending on the situation it could really come in handy. Finally, we have the third function, the Noxious Strike. It's a bio attack, and it has contagion. This says causes poison, applies slowed to targets with poison, applies dizzy to targets with slowed. Also, poison will spread to nearby targets with bleeding on impact. So that's pretty important and could influence what team up or setup you use. Then besides those debuffs, it also causes Torpid, psychic damage reduced by 40%. Also counts as poison. Torpid of course could hurt someone like Emma Frost for example, but we do know her level 2 attack is melee. Anyways though, there you have the functions of the Savage Spear, and all in all, they're not too bad. For our setup, we're using a pretty interesting combination of gear and teammates. It's going to be Anti-Venom and Shanna. Now Shanna is great for any team that's going to use poison, and that's largely due to her Hunter-Gatherer passive. This says reduces incoming damage from poison attackers by 20%. Also, she performs a follow-up attack on single target attacks against poison targets. So yeah, she's actually pretty awesome, and with her naturopathic AISO, she is even better now. We're also using Anti-Venom to kind of tie everything together from our agent setup. So here you can see we're using the Venom Launcher. In Arania set piece, it's going to be a quick action, and it causes Envenomed, which also counts as poison, plus our Grace Note, which is the other piece of the set, and it has exploit opportunity, webbing, stun, and a preemptive attack. The only change that we made was the synthetic cube we took out and replaced it with the satellite support. Now as we begin our test match, first of all notice my agent's HP. it's at 29k, and that's thanks to that 10% increase from the Savage Spear. Those other stats, including our damage, will also have that 10% increase, and with the Elite E-ISO, our agent will end up hitting extremely hard. For our first attack, we're going to begin with the Venom Launcher, which unfortunately only hits their enemy agent, because of his Protect. But say someone like Fandral already dropped the Chandelier on them and they were bleeding. Well, the Noxious Strike's Contagion says, poison will spread to nearby targets with bleeding on impact. Not going to help us out that much right now, so what we're going to use is the Soporific Strike, and that way we'll just get a look at the first function of the Savage Spear. As you'll notice right away, it's going to do a decent amount of damage, especially due to our attack increase. Then the enemy Quicksilver comes back with the tag team, but they're actually only boosting my agent's attack. Unfortunately, our Grace Note preemptive counter misses, or else Star-Lord would have been in some big trouble. With Anti-Venom's turn, we'll use his level 2, which we've given Catastrophic, and that's going to debuff the enemies with opportunist debuffs, and apply Webbed. Then following a Black as Void, Shanna, who believe it or not is one of my favorite characters right now. I'm not saying she's overpowered, but I guess I'm excited that an A-ISO really had quite an impact on a character. It just shows how easily they can make another character viable. She heals herself to full, removes all debuffs, and she'll take 2 actions next round. All from a quick action. Then we went for Pinning Prick because it would have staggered the enemy agent. Instead, Quicksilver takes it, but that significantly lowers his damage. That's because that attack had enfeebled, so it lowered melee damage by 40%. And in truth, the enemy agent was already staggered, but because of Envenomed, we would have done a follow-up attack as well. Hopefully you followed all that. But as for what may be our Savage Spear's final strike, we'll use Noxious on Star-Lord. And at this point, we haven't said a whole lot about the weapon, or at least my opinion of it. So let me go ahead and give you my verdict. In my personal opinion, I would pass. Now you may say, well, it looked pretty good here. And yes, it's very usable. In fact, if you really wanted to pick it up, you could use it with this very team and setup, or something similar. You would probably fare pretty well on offense, though you may want to switch things around and have the Hexenjäger, Cube, or Weather Control Device. But that's just it. There's so many options and so many things that you need to use, or that greatly benefit your entire team. And also the fact that you won't use this on defense is what makes it a pass. So there you are, options if you do decide to get it, but my opinion is it's a pass. So unless you really need that weapon, save yourself some gold and invest in something else. That's going to be it for this one, but I want to thank you all for watching, ask you to please like, comment, and subscribe. Then until next time, good luck and take care.